You're listening to MANX Radio, and I'm Judith Lay, welcoming you to the podcast of the MANX Sky at Night with Howard Parkin.
The Nation Station, MANX Radio.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And there's the familiar music that says it's time to welcome Howard Parkin MBE into the studio for this month's edition of the MANX Sky at Night. Howard, Fastamai, and welcome. And first of all, thank you for being so willing at last moment to make a swap for the programme so that we did it this week rather than last, because we thought that was the best.
No,
the best thing to do.
Judith, it's great to be here. No problem at all moving the date. I'm just glad to have the opportunity to talk to everyone again, and Happy New Year, everybody.
I cannot believe it was December the last time we were.
29th of December was our last one, but
goodness me.
No, it's great to be back.
Well, we've got, as they say, a packed programme, but I think you've got a few words of thanks that you would like to say first.
I have indeed, yes. I've been overwhelmed, Judith. I've absolutely been overwhelmed by everybody who's been so kind when the announcement came through at the very end of December that I'd been awarded the MBE for all my work in astronomy and everything else I do. I was completely and utterly speechless, which you'll know for me, Judith, is not something that happens very often. But when the governor got in touch with me and said the king would like to give me the MBE, I was just completely overwhelmed. And I regard it as a tribute to everybody, really, because there's been yes, I love doing astronomy. It's my hobby. It's my passion. But I get such great feedback from people who seem to enjoy it. I have people who say, I heard you on the radio last night and it's great to hear this. Not just on the island, but people I know have contacted us via email and through yourselves. And it's a thank you to everybody who makes me keep on doing what I do. And now I've been rewarded for it, which is frankly unbelievable. And I'm honoured and humbled all in one sentence.
Well, many, many congratulations, Howard, and just enjoy all that flows around it, because I know there's a lot of ceremony involved.
Oh, there is indeed. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'll no doubt keep you informed.
You enjoy, and a new hat for Mrs. Parkin, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Not just a hat, I'm afraid. It's going to be a lot more than that, I suspect.
Right, let's get down to business. And, right, first of all, in a moment, you're going to get cross with the national media, aren't you?
I am indeed.
But before that, Thursday and Friday skies.
Yes, Thursday and Friday were absolutely crystal clear. It was cold, it was crystal clear. And as I say every time this time of the year, you've got such wonderful skies in late January, early February. And it really was dramatic. Not only have we got these very bright winter stars, but we have two very bright planets in the midst of all those winter stars, the planets Jupiter and the planet Mars. And they really were spectacular. And I just was amazed how good the sky was. Because, yes, we do get, I know Chris teases me about the clouds and all the rest. And yes, we do get clouds, which is why astronomy is so good from the Isle of Man. Wouldn't it be boring if we had clear skies every single night?
No,
it wouldn't. You're right.
Because the reason it wouldn't be boring is because, as you have explained to us, there's always something slightly different to look at. So it wouldn't. But I know technically what you're saying. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I'll give you an example. And astrologers beware, because I'm about to take a pop at astrology now, which isn't what we're going to talk about later. But I noticed the other day the planet Mars, which is quite unmistakable because it's distinctively red in colour, that's the second. We're not looking at Venus now, which is in the west. We're looking towards the eastern sky. We've got Orion, and we've got Jupiter above it in Taurus, and Mars to the left in Gemini. Only about a week, 10 days ago, the two stars, the twin stars of Gemini, Castor and Pollux, had Mars directly underneath it. Mars has moved quite substantially to the right, to the west. It's going retrograde, Judith. It's going backwards. It goes backwards in the sky, which is one of these phenomena that caused all the fuss and all the furore all those many, many centuries ago, because we couldn't work out why planets went backwards. The astrologers and astronomy and astrology were very much bedfellows. They were very much together at this sort of time. But then when Galileo and Copernicus and Kepler and Newton and all these people explained why the planets do what they do, astrology and astronomy parted company. But I was only looking the other day, as I say, at Mars going backwards, and I thought, that's interesting. Mars is going backwards at the moment. we were at opposition with Jupiter not long ago. Jupiter's going backwards as well, as is Uranus. They're all going backwards. Now, as an astrologer would tell me, that is catastrophic. But don't worry about it. All it is, it's a line of sight effect of these massive planets, or two of the massive planets. Mars isn't so big compared to them, just happen to be going backwards, as we on the Earth are going faster than them on the inside track, if you like, going around the Sun in the solar system. But to have 3 planets going retrograde at once, oh dear, that must be difficult to explain.
Not if you're Howard Parkin. Now, I was thinking of you yesterday because a friend of mine who lives on the island, one of her sons lives across, and he's very, very keen on stargazing.
Lovely.
And he's got one of those very special telescopes.
Oh, nice.
And he has sent a photograph, which she very kindly forwarded on to me, of Jupiter and its moons.
Oh,
and
lovely.
it is the most beautiful thing. I am, dear listener, just holding my phone so Howard can see this.
Oh, that is spectacular. You can see the atmospheric bands on Jupiter, what we call the north and south equatorial bands.
Is that what...
that is a good picture. That's a very good picture indeed.
It is, and it just shows the majesty and the mystery of it all,
yes.
doesn't
And
it?
you think Jupiter is 80 odd times the size, the diameter of us? It is absolutely huge. It really is the giant of the solar system.
Yeah.
And it is very, very bright at the moment, very easy to see. And even a small pair of binoculars will show you the moons of Jupiter. The moons
Really?
of Jupiter, first seen by Galileo in 1610, which helped to prove this idea that the planets go around the sun and not everything goes around the Earth. And that huge change is called the Copernican Revolution, or the Great Scientific Revolution, was when, as I say, astrology and astronomy parted company. But it gave us an understanding of why the planets do what they do. And what is incredible is a chap called Kepler, who wrote the laws of planetary motion in 1609 and 1619. They are still as valid today as they were then, 400 years later. And NASA and the Russians and the Chinese and everybody use his laws of planetary motion to understand why the planets are where they are and how we get to them with spacecraft. It's the same principle we use. We orbit spacecraft around the sun to get to planets. And 400 years ago, incredible.
It is incredible. Which leads us nicely into the fact that you're not very happy with the national media at the moment, because
very unhappy.
they seem to be not letting the truth get in the way of a good story.
No, they don't. I mean, what it is imagine listeners, the sphere of the sky is a huge circle, 360 degrees. We only see 180 of it because we see from the west to the east. So obviously we only see half the circle in the sky, if you like. And all of the planets, with the exception of Mercury, are above our horizon. That's what is the reality. All, apart from Mercury, are above the horizon at night time. We can see Venus very, very bright in the west. We can see Mars and Jupiter, I've already mentioned, in the east. The others, Uranus and Neptune, are too faint to be seen with a telescope. I have actually seen images on Facebook and places like that of all the planets in a lovely little line in the sky. It's rubbish. It does not happen. They are all above our horizon. That's the thing. But their brightness varies dramatically. I've missed out Saturn, of course. Saturn is also visible, but quite faint. It's not as bright as the others. Saturn is quite close to Venus at the moment, actually. So we've got Venus and a very, very bright Venus, a faint Saturn not far from it, and then Jupiter and Mars in the east. And Uranus and Neptune, of course, are not visible because we can't see them because they're too far away, they're too faint. The seventh planet, of course, is the one under your feet, the Earth. But what gets me is they've had all this stuff. It was on the national news the other day, and they were talking to the guy, a chap called Tim from Jodrell Bank, and he was being so discreet, and he was trying not to say what I'm saying, because he obviously had the TV pointing to him, and he was trying to say, yes, it is unusual to get so many above the horizon at one time, but they're not really in a line. They're on a line called the ecliptic. Ecliptic, where eclipses happen, that's why we call it the ecliptic, and the moon, the sun, and the planets all go along this line. Now, yesterday was a horrible night yesterday, but the moon was very close to Venus and Saturn. Tonight, it'll be between Venus and Jupiter, and it'll take a couple of days before it'll be very close to Jupiter, and then it'll be very close to Mars, because it's tracking along this line, this ecliptic, the line with the planets, the sun and the planets. The zodiac, they're all in the zodiacal constellations, hence your birth signs. But basically, It's great, it's exciting, and it's wonderful to see, but don't overdo it. Don't exaggerate it to the point that people say, oh, they expect to see a big line in the sky, like a big dotted line in the sky. It
Yeah.
ain't the case. We're excited about it, and I suppose it's like the other one I always have a whinge about, the supermoon effect as well, which is something, again, which isn't really the case. It is slightly bigger. You know what, though, Judith? I was only thinking the other day, no one's ever mentioned the fact that the sun changes in its size as well. No one ever talks about the super sun.
This is true.
Never heard of a super
Mind
sun.
you, we do often say it's super and sunny, don't we?
Well,
You know.
exactly. But the other morning we had a beautiful sunrise, and I know I was listening to Andy on Manx Radio Gold, telling us to look at the sunrise, the beautiful sunrise coming up, and you can see the disk of the sun quite clearly. Never look at the sun with the naked eye. You might get away with it at sunrise and sunset, but please just don't do it. But when you do see it through cloud, you can work out the angular size of it. It's the little fingernail tip again. You hold your little fingernail at arm's length, and it'll completely cover the disk of the sun. But the sun varies in size just like the moon does.
But I think actually you've hit on it there yourself, Howard, when you say we can't look at the sun for the most
That's
part.
probably why it's not.
And that's why, whereas we gaze at the moon and we
the
notice
time.
we say it's a lovely crescent moon, or it's this or it's that. And we look at that, we can kind of meditate on
Yeah.
it. The sun you can't.
No.
And I think that's why we don't get that
I've
an
never seen it
awareness.
mentioned ever. But you can, as I say, look at the solar disk when it's coming through clouds at sunrise and sunset.
Yeah,
That's the
sure.
only time, and we all see it.
Yes.
And we all sit there and watch the sun going down. It's on a beautiful night, you watch the sun going down, and it hisses as it hits the water, of course. I'm sure you all know that.
Well, but of course.
Of course it does.
Right.
Incidentally, Judith, one thing I have yet to see as an astronomer, I've been very lucky to see lots of things in astronomy, never seen the green flash. The green flash is a refractive property of the sun, of our Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah.
As the sun literally disappears below the horizon, or appears just before it appears above the horizon at sunrise, you get a vivid green flash. I have seen pictures of it. I know people who have seen it. I have never seen it. A great place to see it from, Judith, is on ships. And I have been on one or two ships over the years, and I have stared at the horizon, at the solar disk going down below the horizon. Have I seen a green flash? Not once. So there's one to look for, listeners. If the sun, as it goes down over Peel, or over in the Irish Sea over Peel, look for a vivid green flash. And if you do, let me know, and I'll just be jealous.
That's fine, yeah. But you see, this just comes back to what you say, Howard. There is always something.
There is indeed.
Some phenomena that you would love to see, or something that you do see that lives with you forever. It is just an endless subject, really.
It is,
isn't
really. There's just so much about it. And
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to have had the chance to talk about it on Manx Radio and different places around the world. And, of course, that's what I love doing.
Well, we keep you on your toes. We expect
you
you to come
certainly
in
do.
with a packed agenda. Let's go back to talking about. I wanted to talk about the moon, the moon that's coming to the cathedral in
Under
Peel.
the moon,
but before
yes.
we do that, is there anything else that we need to know about the planets?
Not really. I mean,
in
what
the
I
coming
would
weeks.
what I would say to people is do look very closely at Venus and look for Saturn. Look for Venus. You can't mistake. And I'm just struggling for a second. I think Saturn is above Venus. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's above Venus. On the 25th of February, Mercury, the missing planet of the 7, making the 8, is actually going to be in the sky. So all this fuss now about the planetary parade, nobody is mentioning the fact that in February, all of them, every single one, will be above our horizon. And Mercury, very difficult to spot because it doesn't stray far from the sun, but it will be visible. And you've got Venus and Saturn to guide you to it. So we're looking for a faint planet. It's in a light sky, a very light sky, a twilight sky. And now that's the thing to do. If you can see Mercury, Saturn, Venus and Jupiter and Mars all at once, by just turning around and looking for them, that's well worth it to look out for.
I think, seeing as we're all over planets at the moment, I think we need to have our music break. And when we come back, let's go to the cathedral in Peel and talk
good idea.
about the Museum of the Moon, Luke Jerram's art installation that will in fact be opening, the exhibition will be opening in a week's time.
It's a god-awful small affair to the girl with the mousy hair, but her mummy is yelling no, her daddy has told her to go, but her friend is nowhere to be seen. Now she walks through her sunken dream to the seat with the clearest view, and she's hooked to the silver screen. But the film is a sad thing for she's lived it 10 times or more. She could spit in the eyes of fools if they ask her to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the low man beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if you'll ever know who's in the best-selling show. Is there life on Mars? It's on America's tortured brow that Mickey Mouse has grown up a cow. And now the workers have struck for fame, 'cause Lennon's on sale again. See the mice in their million hordes, from Ibiza to the Norfolk Broads. Rule Britannia is out of bounds, to my mother, my dog and clowns. But the film is a sad thing more, 'cause I wrote it 10 times or more. It's about to be writ again, as I ask her to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the low man beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if you'll ever know who's in the best-selling show. Is there life on Mars?
It is a question we often ask each other. Is there life on Mars? That's David Bowie for our music break, and you are listening to this month's edition of the Manx Sky at Night with Howard Parkin MBE. And Howard, from Life on Mars, have you got anything to add?
I just want a quick point out. There is life on Mars. Categorically, 100% there is life on Mars. Robotic life. Ooh. We've got 2 rovers roving around Mars as we speak. Therefore, there is robotic life on Mars.
Right. Moving swiftly on. The Museum of the Moon, this fantastic installation by Luke Jerram, is coming to the Cathedral in Peel, opens next weekend. And it's going to be open from the 9th of February onwards. The cathedral is going to be open from 9 in the morning until 9 at night, unless there is an evening event, in which case, obviously, it will stay open longer until the particular event has finished, the concert or talk or whatever it might be. But on evenings where there is no particular event on, it'll be open until 9 p.m, so 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. You're welcome to walk in at any time, just wander in. If there are things going on, you're asked to respect the things that might be happening and just watch or listen or just wander around. The cathedral is a big place. There's lots of room for everybody. Happy to say that lots of schools will be going in. The children will be going in. There's a special time when all the guides from the island will be going in. There's a little exclusive time when they will be on. Facebook is a good way to keep a track on all the special events, and there's all kinds of things from Pilates through to shanty singing and all kinds of other things. And you, Howard, are very much involved with this, aren't you?
I am indeed, and it's something that was suggested probably about a year ago by Rosemary at the cathedral about the possibility of getting this, and I'm delighted in every way that we've got the moon there, because it's such a wonderful thing to look at. And it all started, as I say, about a year ago. And for my sins, I've agreed to do a number of events for them and with them. I've actually got 4 events I'm involved with. On the Saturday the 15th, I'm doing a thing for children. Groups of school children are coming to the cathedral, so I'm going to be giving them a talk about the moon from a child's perspective, some of the folklore, some of the mystery, and some of the stories about the moon, the man in the moon, all this sort of stuff. Then on the Friday night, they're having a big dinner, a big celebration dinner, and they've asked me to be a speaker at that, and I'm doing a lecture for you after dinner speaker, I suppose, the proper terminology, and I've called it Under the Moon, Over the Moon, which is basically what it is, because we're all going to be under the moon, and we've always been over the moon about the moon, and when we look up at it and everything else, it's a play on words really, and it's the story of the moon in 45 minutes. So I do hope you'll come along to that. If you want tickets for that one, that is there's a dinner. Philby's are doing a dinner there. It's a lovely menu, and I know tickets are available from the cathedral, or you can look for the details on Facebook as well. Then on the Wednesday, the 26th of February, I'm doing a Q&A session with Joe Heaton, who is the vicar of down south. I've forgotten which parish in particular. And there's another gentleman as well. The 3 of us are going to be doing a Q&A session about the moon, its place in history, its place in religion, and the science of going to the moon and everything else. So that should be quite exciting as well, which I think will be quite a good thing to come along to. And finally, on the Sunday, the 2nd of March, I've been asked to actually come along to the Sunday service and talk about science and religion as a topic, which is something that I'm quite keen to do and quite happy to do, because there's no contradiction with science and religion, as I've said on this show many a time. And it just gives me the opportunity to actually talk about that and talk about some of the key figures in science who have got their own faith and their own beliefs. And I just want to make people aware of that and make people realise there is no contradiction between science and religion. The two go hand in hand and side by side.
Well, I have to resist the urge to talk about this for the rest of the programme, because that would not be fair. But yeah, they will be fascinating. You know, that talk to the school children is a great example of what I say about if you happen to drift in and you're giving that talk to the school children, people are most welcome to stand at the sides and listen.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would just like to say is this is a scale model. So
7 metres in diameter.
When you point out different features on the moon, we'll get an idea of their real scale relative to the size of the moon.
I mean, the craters, we'll point at the craters of the moon. For instance, we talked about Copernicus just before. Well, some of the biggest craters on the moon are Tycho and Copernicus and Plato and as I say, Kepler as well. All the main figures from science are all there. And one of the other characters, Shackleton, of course, the great South American Antarctica or polar explorer, Ernest Shackleton, the moon right on the South Pole. Now, when you're in the cathedral looking up at the South Pole of the moon, the big crater at the bottom there is called Shackleton. That's where they're going to land on the moon, hopefully in 2027. So that'll be a nice thing to be able to point out. But the best perspective you'll get of seeing it is not from standing underneath it, but standing back a little bit and look at the whole thing. And it really, if it's anything like the Gaia, which I know it will be, because the Gaia in St Thomas's earlier this year was spectacular, and this is equally spectacular.
Yeah, it's part of the series Gaia, the Earth at St Thomas's, as you say. That was created by the same artist,
guy.
Luke Jerram. So we know.
I understand he's done Mars as well, so there's one for the future for us.
I think possibly so. I think the next one is Helios,
right?
Isn't it? And Helios will be in the cathedral in Liverpool,
right?
In April, and that will be the first time.
That's the sun, of course.
Yes,
that's the sun,
and that's the first time that will have been seen anywhere. So maybe we can put that one on our shopping list and see. And then we've got the complete.
Let's get the full set.
Let's get the complete set. But in the meantime, the moon.
Let's get Jupiter with all its moons spinning round the outside of the cathedral.
I'll give you Luke Jerram's email address, Howard. You can drop him a line and see what he can create for you.
You know what is a nuisance, though? What is a nuisance?
What is a nuisance?
One of the things they're going to do is have a moonlit walk around the gardens.
Yes.
But at this time of the year, the moon doesn't rise more than about 25 degrees above the horizon, so it's not going to be visible from the cathedral gardens. Most irritating. You get this beautiful moon coming up high in the sky sometimes the year, but just at this time of the year, it's very low, and we're not going to get it as well as we'd like. Very inconvenient. I think we should have rearranged it.
Well,
don't tell Rosemary that.
All I shall say is keep an eye on the programme. There's all kinds of things throughout the whole
there is.
period of time.
Full packed programme, really.
Until from the 9th of February when it starts through until the 2nd of March. So have a look on Facebook or look out for posters. There's lots of posters about with events on, and come and enjoy it. But just drift in and have a look at it.
The point I would say to everybody is the amount of people who said to me, "Oh no, I didn't get a chance to see Gaia at St Thomas's." Well, don't do that for this one. Take the chance. When you go to Peel for your ice cream, pop in the cathedral and have a look at the moon. It's going to be well worth seeing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it as well.
I am too. It's going to be something very, very special. Right. Now, from the moon in the cathedral, let's get into space. I can't quite believe that President Trump has got involved in these people who are up. Oh,
I know. I mean, another one of my jump up and down moments is when they keep going about these poor astronauts who are stuck up in space. They never stuck in space. We all knew what they were doing when they did it. But if you haven't heard the news, listener, what they did is President Trump has issued instructions. He's issued instructions to his friend Elon Musk, go and get these brave astronauts who have been stranded there by the Biden administration. What a load of absolute baloney. They're coming back on a SpaceX Dragon, which is one of Elon Musk's rockets anyway, much to the chagrin of Boeing, who were meant to be bringing them back. And it's been planned for, 6 months ago. They knew they were going to be coming back in spring. It has gone back a month because of operational reasons. They're not coming back in February, they're coming back in March. And of course, they'll get heroes welcome, and rightly so. They've done a great job out there. She's just done one of the longest ever spacewalks, as Sonny Williams, who's the commander of the space station at the moment. So they're doing plenty. They're not stuck up there sulking, looking out the window saying, I want to be home with my mum. They're doing proper work as astronauts do, and they all know the consequences of changes to mission profiles. And this was a major change, admittedly. But they've not been stuck up there. They could come back tomorrow. There is what they call the lifeboats on board the ISS. If they had to abandon the ISS today, tomorrow, whenever, there is space for all of the astronauts and cosmonauts on there to come home. But they're not going to do that and abandon the space station just because Donald Trump wants us to do so. But they'll be back, and no doubt he'll take full credit for it.
Well, moving on from that, I hope that what will be focused on when they come back is what they have achieved, because as you so rightly said, they haven't wasted their time.
No, of course
These
not.
are highly skilled people.
Of course they are, very, very so.
And we'll make the most of that time. So let's hope that we can focus on that when they come back. Well, let's focus they come back safely, and then focus on what they've achieved with the extra time that they've had.
Indeed.
So what else is interesting you, Howard?
Well, the other space news story from the 16th of January was, of course, SpaceX launched their Starship again, their Starship 6 test launch. And unfortunately, this one, the second stage of the rocket, did explode. And it exploded quite spectacularly. And I've got some friends on the island who actually were in the Turks and Caicos Islands and heard and saw this debris breaking up in space and raining down on Earth. But what everyone missed in that story, because of course the media again love bad news and, it didn't work, it was a failure. But they managed to catch the first stage again. They managed to, remember they did that in November, they caught the first stage. They managed to catch it again. I won't say it's commonplace, it's only been done twice. They didn't do it the second time on Starship 7. But they've managed to do it, on 5. They did it on 4 and they've done it on 6. And the next one is now scheduled to be launched as number 8. But the problem with the second stage meant that the payload on board wasn't pushed into orbit. They know exactly what caused the problem. But like everything else, you learn and you move on. That's the whole process. And it'll be interesting to see what happens on the next one, which I hope is the last scheduled date I heard was 22nd of February. So we'll wait and watch that one with bated breath.
Well, this is the thing. There is always something happening. The building blocks of life. What do we need to know about that?
Well, this was the samples that NASA got from the asteroid, the OSIRIS-REx mission that came back about a year ago, or parts of the capsule brought back some samples from the asteroid Bennu about a year ago, and they've been examining these bits of rock. They took about 2 kilos of material, quite a lot really. And they've been examining this in laboratories and places all over the world, and they've come back to the conclusion that the building blocks of life, the amino acids and all these different things you need to have life exist, they all exist in these samples. We're not saying for 1 minute that life exists in them, but what we're saying is the ingredients are there, which makes us think that the ingredients for life existing elsewhere in the universe The materials are there, so it just needs this spark or whatever that might be to generate the evolution of life on that particular world. And we're not talking about little green men, we're talking about life, microbes, whether they evolve into sentient beings like us. That's a hugely different subject. But this idea, this is one of the big quests of the space scientists and the astrophysicists, to see, is there life elsewhere in the universe? And that's a very big subject, and probably not for tonight.
And that, well, I could if time permitted, but we have, as always, Howard, been beaten by the clock, and it's 10 o'clock. And so it's time for me to let you go. But it just shows we have got so much more to talk about. Howard, as ever, thank you for joining us in the studio tonight. And Howard, we look forward to welcoming you back. Normal services will be resumed in February. You're going to join us, as you always do, on the final Sunday of February, when we will once again be stargazing, and we will be gazing out into space. Howard Parkin MBE, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Judith.
Faster Mai.
Manx Radio.